Okay, people, it's nice to be here again. I hope you are having a great day and stuff and enjoying yourselves. I thought it would be interesting for the first time, and I know I've done a smaller video on this. It wasn't, I didn't narrate anything, but I thought it would be appropriate at this time to discuss St. Paul and Josephus, and for the first time really show you some of the comparisons between their lives, because one of the big discoveries I think in the last 20 or 30 years has been that they're basically the same person. Josephus wrote Paul into existence, and it was Josephus whose life Paul's is essentially based on. We don't know much about St. Paul. He kind of floats into the historical record at around the time of the Gospels are written, 70 AD and onwards. Really, this is the time that it looks very much like he was writing, or he was in charge of a group of people who were writing the Gospels. It could come down to that. Yeah, I'm going to go through just quickly. I don't want this to be a long video, but I'm going to go through some of the comparisons in their lives. And the interesting things are that you can take some of these comparisons and you can pull out much more detail, and these details are found within the life of Josephus, in the wars of Josephus, in the war of the Jews with the Romans by Josephus, and in Antiquities as well, and they're right there in the Gospels, in Acts. And what I'm going to do, and this is basically from my book again, it was based on the work of a fella called Ralph Ellis, who in the book Jesus from Cam to Camelot, he discovered these associations, and it's his book that I'm paying homage to here. I'm only going to list a few of the comparisons. There are actually more in the book. He lists about 20 really pertinent ones. Some of them are, if you look in obviously Josephus embellishes certain of the stories or leaves out information in Acts, but it's really rather interesting. So both grew up in Jerusalem and were educated as Pharisees. Both under Roman jurisdiction were hunted and persecuted revolutionaries in and around Galilee. Both had visions telling them to change their ways. So this is the big revelation of St. Paul. Josephus had the same thing, and then subsequently switched sides. So Paul to the rebels, and Josephus was a turncoat, and he switched sides to the Romans. Both accounts mention an Egyptian false prophet, and Paul is accused of being the aforementioned false prophet. So Egyptian false prophet. Okay, so yeah, again, it's rather unique word formation there. Both spoke Greek and Aramaic, but Greek was the lingua franca, so you'd assume that Greek would have been the first language they'd have picked up. I think Aramaic might have been Josephus's, but they both spoke, obviously, these two languages very well. Both were saved by Romans from the Jews, who wished to kill them many times. Josephus was certainly roughed up on more than one occasion, way more than one occasion. Both were shipwrecked off of Malta and had to swim for their lives great distances, and ended up being saved by another ship and taken to Putelli near Naples. Then were taken to Rome for an audience with the Caesar, and this is most probably Nero. Now we're talking about the mid-60s here. This is to do with the Temple Wall affair. It gets a bit complex, but it was basically a wall that the Jews wanted to put up, which would have blocked the sight from a big Roman garrison into the temple. I think a big temple complex, and they saw this as not desirable, as they were in prolonged disputes and battles with the Jews, trying to subvert them and so on. It's a bit of a long story in Josephus, but it's interesting nonetheless. Both wrote extensively in Rome, promoting their works and disseminating them around Europe, and of course both travelled extensively as well around the Middle East into North Africa and through into Southern Europe, obviously Italy and so on. And this is interesting. As an end note, they both had the same publisher. The same publisher published both of their works, and this is Aphrodites. He was the publisher of secretary of letters under two of the Caesars. I think it was two, it might have been three actually of the Caesars, so it would have been Nero, Vespasian, and Titus Vespasian as well. Now I'm going to just take one of these examples. It is the shipwreck example, and just pull out a little more data. This is found on a very good website. You can just Google St. Paul Josephus shipwreck, and you'll find this interesting little morsel here. AR and the procurator Felix is involved in both accounts, so Josephus' account and Acts. Jewish religious leaders are involved in both accounts. Felix causes Jewish religious leaders to be imprisoned. Felix's actions result in prisoners going to Rome. The Jewish religious leaders are unjustly accused in both accounts. Journey to Rome is by a ship. The sea journey to Rome seeks to effect justice at the imperial level. To undo injustice is done at the provincial level. So there are lots of rabbis and so on that were very angry at the Romans for not allowing them to build this wall, and they took it to the Caesar to sort out. The ship not only sinks but chooses to sink in the Adriatic Sea as well. The heroes of this saga, of the story, Josephus and Paul, act with courage and provide leadership. So they're both, in one instance, Paul is not supposed to be in this courageous and leadership kind of. He takes leadership basically. Both of them do. That's interesting, I think. All passengers survive, presumably in Josephus' account. So he doesn't say they all survived, but he doesn't say that any of them died. Probable if some of them had done. Both heroes pass through Puteoli as well as port town on the way near Naples and on the way to Rome. It is strange, is it not? And of course this happens at exactly the time you can sync up these events if you know anything about this chronological chasm that seems to have been taken effect. And if you can look at a really interesting lady called Lena Einhorn, and she puts forth a very interesting case that you can take the biblical narrative, basically the stories, the Gospels, and shift them forward 20 to 30 years, and they fit much more neatly into the actual historical timeline. I reckon I'll do a video on that next. I just wanted to make a quick correction as well. I talked about Barnabas and Barus last time. It's actually Banus. I got that name wrong, Banus. But you'll see the early life of as well as. And remember, I left some of these comparisons out. There are many. St. Paul and Josephus have a very similar early life. They both go on missionary tours with a rabbi whose name is eerily similar. They both get into a lot of trouble. They see a guy stoned to death. In St. Paul, it's Stephen, who becomes St. Stephen, and in Josephus, it's James, one of the brothers of Jesus. actually, interestingly enough. And another brother, I think, called Peter. Is it Peter Simon Peter? That's right, Simon Peter. So a wonderful story about a Jesus that seems to be the Jesus in the Bible, or a composite. He was a real guy who exists in the Bible. He was a leader of the revolt against Rome. It ended up, of course, with the Romans sacking Jerusalem. Very interesting story. I'm going to leave this here. I want to bid you all good day, and hope you enjoyed that. I'm gonna do another video very soon. 10 minutes 30. Look at that. Getting better at this. Alright, ciao. Bye.